This video is going to talk about using unit rates to solve problems. Knowing a unit rate can help determine other rates. If one shirt costs $8, how much do two shirts cost? If you said 16, you win this round. Let's see how much 3 shirts would cost. Let's see if I can get the pen working. 3 shirts would cost 24 because you're multiplying that 8 of the original 1 shirt by 3. What about 4 shirts? 8 times 4 would be $32. Yeah, we're going to keep going. So if 1 centimeter on a map represents 2 miles, how much do 3 centimeters represent? What about 7 centimeters? What about 4.5 centimeters? Well, if we know that 1 centimeter is 2 miles, if we go from 1 centimeter to 3 centimeters, I'm going to multiply times 3. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 3 to get 6 miles. If I want to know how much does 7 centimeters represent, I'm going to multiply 7 centimeters times 2. That would be 14 miles. And what about 4.5? 4.5 centimeters? Well, if 1 centimeter represents 2 miles, I'm going to multiply 2 miles times 4.5. 4.5 times 2. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 4 plus 1 is 9. One number after the decimal means that's 9 miles. 2 schools are 6 miles apart. How far should they be on the map? Remember that on this map, 1 centimeter is the same as 2 miles. So if we're 6 miles apart, to go from 2 to 6, you would multiply times 3. So you'd multiply 1 centimeter times 3 to say 3 centimeters. Let's say 2 buildings are 11 miles apart. How far apart should they be on the map? Well, this is where things get a little bit more tricky. Excuse me. Because I want to know 2 times what gets me 11. That's not something I know off the top of my head unless I've been doing math for a long time and I'm kind of fluent in it. So I'm going to take 11 divided by 2. 2 goes into 1, it doesn't. 2 goes into 11 5 times. That gets me 10. 1 left over. Use the decimal to put a 0 down there. That would end up being 5.5. So for this, we would know that I would multiply 5.5. And since I'm multiplying 2 times 5.5 to get 11, 1 times 5.5 is 5.5. Let's go ahead and look at these unit rates. 4 pairs cost 80 cents. How much does 1 pair cost? So how do I get 4 pairs to 1 pair? I'm going to divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 80 divided by 4 is 20 cents. 3 teachers are supervising 90 students on a field trip. Whew. How many students does each teacher supervise? So instead of 3 teachers, I want to get to 1 teacher. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So 90 divided by 3 is 30 students. 2 books cost $15. How much does 1 book cost? Well, 2 to 1 is dividing by 2. 15 divided by 2 ends up being $7.50. 8 cans of juice cost $12. How much does 1 can of juice cost? Well, I can go from 8 to 1. I can just divide by 8. 12 divided by 8 isn't as nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the numbers a little bit. What if instead of 8, what if I wanted to go down to 4 cans of juice? 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay, looks good so far. Let's get this down to, let's cut this 6 down in half to 3. If I have $3, how many cans can I buy? Well, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Two cans cost $3, which means that 1 can, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 3 divided by 2 would end up being $1.50. Let's figure out whether one term of one ratio is divisible by the corresponding or the same term in the other ratio. Then decide whether you need to reduce the complete ratio to lowest terms before you can solve the proportion. So let's take a look at what corresponding means. If I'm given the number 10 here, that's the second number. That means 25 is the corresponding number in that ratio. Over here, I'm given the number 4. So because 4 is the first one, 16 is the corresponding ratio. It's in the same location in the other ratio. To go from 4 to 16, I would just multiply by 4. So 10 times 4, that would be 40. Over here, it's not as easy. I need to get from 10 to 25. That's not as nice. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to get 30 to 25 to lowest terms. We're going to change this ratio to something else. We're going to divide this ratio by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 30 divided by 5 is 6. My new ratio is 6 to 5. Blank to 10 is the same as 6 to 5. Well, I know that 5 times 2 is 10, so 6 times 2 is 12. Let's take a look at these examples. We're going to solve the proportions first by reducing the ratio, the complete ratio, to lowest terms. So take a look at each of these completed ratios and try to simplify them. Go ahead and pause the video now if you don't want spoilers. 12 to 9 can be simplified to 4 to 3 by dividing each number by 3. 6 to 15 can be divided by 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 16 and 6 can both be divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 8. 16 divided by 2 is 8. 6 divided by 2 is 3. That menu popping up threw me off. 12 divided by 33. Well, 33 can only be divided by 11 and 3. So 33 divided by 3 is 11. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And now that we have these new ratios, now we can figure out the other ratio. 4 and 8 are corresponding here. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6 is our answer. This one we have the second number. 5 times 4 is 20. 2 times 4 is 8. Over here, the first number is what we're given, and 8 times 7 is 56. So 3 times 7 is 21. And over here, we're given the second number. 22 times 11, or 11 times 2 is 22. 4 times 2 is 8. Let's talk about some planets. Neptune orbits the Sun 3 times in the same time that it takes Pluto to orbit the Sun 2 times. How many orbits does Neptune complete in the time it takes Pluto to orbit the Sun 9 times? We're going to write a proportion here. We're going to talk about Neptune and Pluto. So Neptune orbits 3 times when Pluto orbits 2. We want to know what happens when what happens to Neptune when it takes Pluto 9 orbits. So to get this, it would probably make sense to get down to a unit rate. So I'm going to divide 2 by 2 to get 1, and I'm going to divide 3 divided by 2 to get 1.5. 1 times 9 is 9. 1.5 times 9. 9 times 5 is 45. would be 100 or 13.5. So there would be 13.5 orbits for Neptune. Oh look, it's the same thing that we just figured out right here, but they went ahead and put it right here. Now, after finding the unit rate, we knew that Neptune to Pluto was 3 to 2, 1 to 5. We knew that Pluto was 9, which meant that this ended up being 13.5. On a map, 2 centimeters represents 5 kilometers. If a lake is 7 centimeters long on the map, what's the actual size? Well, first we need to get that centimeters down to a unit rate of 1 centimeter by dividing by 2. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 kilometers. Now that we've divided by 2 to get the unit rate, we need to go ahead and multiply times 7 to get to our actual question. So we have 2.5 times 7. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 2 is 14, 15, 16. That would be 17.5 kilometers. Final question. There are 6 boys for every 10 girls on a school trip. What happens if there's 35 girls? Let's make some room here. We're running short. What happens if there's 35 girls? How many boys are there? Well, let's get this down to something more reasonable. I know that for 6 and for 10, I can divide both of those by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5 girls. 6 divided by 2 is 3 boys. 5 times 7 is 35. 3 times 7 is 21 boys. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that the rest of your day is absolutely amazing.